The first time I saw it, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A figure moved between the headstones, too tall, too thin, its joints bending the wrong way. The air was heavy with whispers, like dozens of voices, murmuring just below the soil, rising and falling with each step I took. My flashlight shook in my hand, and I swear the graves themselves shifted, the earth swelling as if something beneath was struggling to breathe. They told me working nights at the graveyard would be quiet. Easy money, they said. Just a part-time job, nothing more. But no one mentioned the rules. And when I broke the first one, even by accident, I realized what was buried here should never have been found. That night wasn't about watching over the dead. It was about surviving them. But I should start from the beginning. Asterisk. I found the job by accident, scrolling through the classifieds at 2 a.m. Night watch. St. Augustine's Cemetery. Good pay, minimal duties. It sounded perfect. I was broke, tired of retail, and the idea of being left alone for 8 hours a night sounded like a blessing. Just me, a flashlight, and some quiet. When I showed up, the cemetery looked ordinary. A wrought iron gate, rows of tilted stones, a caretaker's shed with a faint smell of oil and old tobacco, peaceful even. The groundskeeper, a wiry old man named Harris, barely looked at me as he handed over the keys. "Couple rules," he muttered. "Don't answer if you hear your name after midnight. Don't touch fresh dirt ever. And every night, before you start, leave a coin on the angel statue near the west gate." I laughed nervously. Superstitions? He finally met my eyes. They were tired, sunken. No, survival. I should have walked away right then. But the pay was good, the hours simple. Just a night in a graveyard. What could possibly go wrong? I had no idea those rules weren't just suggestions. They were warnings. Asterisk, my first night started quietly enough. I swept gravel from the main path, checked the locks on the side gates, even replaced a bulb in one of the lanterns that flickered near the mausoleum. The cemetery was still, the kind of silence that felt heavy but not yet threatening. Just another night shift, I told myself, now and then. I caught small oddities, cold spots that lingered a little too long. The sound of rustling in the grass when no wind blew. A lantern on the far side of the grounds blinked once, twice, then steadied like nothing had happened. I forced a laugh. Old place like this, it's bound to creak. Probably rats. Maybe some kids daring each other to sneak in around midnight. I paused by a grave that couldn't have been more than a few days old. Fresh flowers, soil still damp. That's when I thought I heard someone whisper my name, faint as a sigh, carried on the still air. My throat tightened. Harris's warning echoed in my head. Don't answer if you hear your name after midnight. I shoved my hands in my pockets and walked away quickly. I had no idea how close I'd come. Asterisk. It happened so casually, I almost didn't realize I'd done it. I was making my rounds near the west gate when I heard it again, a whisper, soft and drawn out. This time, it wasn't just my name. It was a question. Why are you here? Without thinking, I muttered back, working. My voice barely carried. But the moment the word left my lips, the air shifted. The grass stirred, though the night was still. My flashlight beam trembled across the headstones, catching on shapes that seemed to lean closer. Shadows stretching longer than they should. Somewhere behind me, gravel crunched, as if someone were following at a perfect distance. I spun around, but the path was empty. The silence afterward was worse than the noise-thick pressing. Like the whole graveyard was holding its breath. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just jumpy. But deep down, I knew better. My skin prickled with the certainty that something had heard me. Something that wasn't supposed to. I shoved the thought away, forced myself to finish the shift. By sunrise, everything looked normal again. Almost normal. And that was only the first rule I broke. Asterisk. The second night stripped away any illusion that this was just an easy job. The quiet I'd found comforting before was gone, replaced by restless noise. Mausoleum doors groaned and slammed, though no wind stirred. I passed a row of fresh graves and saw the earth shift, bulging upward like something underneath was pressing against it. I froze by the angel statue, my nightly coin clutched in my palm. For the briefest moment, I could swear its stone face turned just slightly, just enough for the eyes to follow me. My breath caught. I forced the coin onto its base and stumbled back. Later, as I was checking the perimeter, I wasn't alone. A young guy in the same uniform stepped out from behind the caretaker's shed, face pale, eyes darting.
"First week?"
he asked. I nodded. He shook his head. Don't look at them too long. They notice when you notice. Before I could ask what he meant, he disappeared into the dark rows of stones, as if swallowed by them. That's when I learned a little more about this place. St. Augustine wasn't just a graveyard. It was a dumping ground. Mass graves from plagues, unmarked plots, whispers of cult sacrifices, buried deep where no records existed. The rules weren't just to protect me. They were to protect the living from the dead. Asterisk, it wasn't me who broke the big rule. It was the other guy, the one who warned me. I found him crouched by a fresh grave, his flashlight casting long, nervous shadows across the mound of damp earth. His hand hovered just above the soil, trembling. "Don't," I hissed. Harris's voice rang in my head. "Don't touch fresh dirt ever." But the kid whispered, I heard her. "My sister, she's down there," and pressed his palm flat against the grave. The ground convulsed. Not shifted, convulsed, like something inside had been waiting for his touch. A wet, sucking sound filled the air, and before I could drag him back, the earth opened like a mouth. Fingers, gray, too many, bending, wrong shot up, clutching his wrist. His scream tore through the night as the soil swallowed him to the elbow, then the shoulder. I yanked, useless, against the pole. His flashlight tumbled into the grave, the beam cutting across faces, dozens of faces writhing just below the surface, mouths opening in silent hunger. And then he was gone, just gone. The dirt sealed shut, smooth as if it had never been disturbed. Only his scream lingered in my skull. I stood shaking, bile rising in my throat. That's when it hit me. The rules weren't optional. They were survival, and I hate admitting this. But St. Augustine wasn't the first place I'd seen rules tied to something darker. Just the worst. Asterisk, after that night. I stopped thinking of it as a job and started thinking of it as a gauntlet. Every step was life or death. I kept my flashlight low, avoided fresh graves like they were landmines, and shoved coins into the angel's hand with shaking fingers. The whispers grew bolder, layering over one another until they drowned out my own thoughts. Come closer. Look at me. We remember you. I bit my tongue until it bled just to stop myself from answering. Figures moved between the stones, too many, too fast. When I caught a glimpse of their faces, I forced my eyes to the ground. Harris's warning echoed. They notice when you notice. Something followed me, heavy footsteps crunching gravel just out of sight. Every time I turned, it stopped. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I kept moving, dodging shadows, refusing voices, clutching those cursed rules like a lifeline. By the time the sky lightened to gray, I was cornered against the west gate, every instinct telling me I wouldn't make it. Then, just like that, the whispers stopped. The air stilled. I was alive, for now, because the dead don't stop at dawn. Asterisk, I made it out. But survival doesn't feel like victory. My hands still shake when I think about the kids' scream, about the faces twisting just beneath the soil. And worse, I didn't quit. I couldn't. The next night, my body carried me back to St. Augustine, like I had no choice in the matter. The graveyard doesn't let you walk away. Even outside, the rules linger. I've heard whispers in my apartment, felt the air shift when I passed a construction site with fresh dirt. It follows me, or maybe it owns me. I can't share all the rules, not here, not yet. Some things are too dangerous to say, but I can share enough to keep you alive. If you ever find yourself in a place like this, remember, the dead don't rest. And the rules aren't superstition, they're warnings, and breaking them means joining what's buried. Asterisk. If you've ever worked a night shift, you already know how strange the dark can feel, how silence twists into something alive. But have you ever worked where the dead don't stay still? Where every step feels like trespassing on something older than you can imagine? I've told you enough to keep you wary, but not enough to make you safe. So here's my question. What do you think the rules are really protecting us from? Drop your theories in the comments aisle. Be reading them. Just don't stay up too late thinking about it. That's when they whisper loudest.